So I assume that many of you, many young people, I think today, actually not just young people, but I think parents as well, but especially young people are probably spending their day like this. How many people are spending their day like this, or a good part of their day? I know that my kids are online for classes. Not you, okay. That's good. But many, kind of, yes. So many children, many parents, adults, teenagers, but especially children who are in school are spending a lot more time online. Mashallah, you have a daily plan. Mashallah, that's excellent. That's very, very good. For those who were here last session or who saw the last session, children circled and made us daily plan, a daily schedule. That's excellent, mashallah. But for many people, especially including children, a good part of the day is probably being spent online, either to do, to attend school, to attend classes, to do their assigned work, their homework, um, or simply, because they have time and they're not sure how to spend it. Maybe they didn't follow what we discussed last week, and nonetheless, there's a lot of time that ends up being spent online, especially in these types of situations. So my question to you now is sort of unrelated, but actually it is related. Who knows what this is? Who can tell me what this is on the screen right now?
No, it didn't work.
A mousetrap, that's right. And what is a mousetrap used for? What is a mousetrap used for? It's pretty self-explanatory, I suppose. For trapping mice. That's right. Very good. Killing or capturing mice. Yes. Um, so a mouse trap is set up. As you can see, it has some bait. So in this case, it's a piece of cheese. Although I don't believe that cheese is normally the best thing to attract mice. What actually apparently works really well for mice are Tootsie Rolls, believe it or not. So for some reason, mice appear to love Tootsie Rolls. So if somebody sets up a mouse trap with Tootsie Rolls, there's a good chance that they're gonna have a mouse stuck in their trap. So as you can see, there is something that is very appealing. So for example, it could be a piece of cheese, it could be the Tootsie Roll, it could be peanut butter, it could be, other things that attract the mice. And when the mice or the mouse comes onto the trap, then boom, all of a sudden, the metal piece swings or springs onto the mouse and traps it, and it's no longer able to run away. Um, this is what human beings use to trap mice. Unfortunately, there are human beings and even shaitan who tries to attract, and trap um, all human beings, including children as well. Okay, so children, unfortunately, are not immune, are not necessarily protected from shaitan and from people who are following shaitan's teachings, who are following shaitanic instructions, who are part of shaitan's army. So therefore, it's very important for us to be aware of the types of traps that can be set up or that are set up in order to attract us and to trap us. Now, there's different types of traps. Now, you can imagine a mouse trap is not going to work on a rat, or it's not going to work on a raccoon, or on a groundhog. So for different types of creatures, there's different types of traps that can be set up. So for adults, for older people, there can be different types of tools and different types of tricks and traps that Shaitan sets up. But today we're going to be focusing on the types of traps that Shaitan and people who are evil or who are following the teachings of Shaitan, the types of traps that they set up, especially for younger children. Okay, so when we go outside, okay, and I know there are some restrictions nowadays in terms of using parks. Don't use parks. I know it may be very tempting, but the city of Ottawa has shut down and many other cities as well have shut down their parks. And people who are caught using parks, even play structures or even playing in the fields, can actually get a very big fine of perhaps even above $700, $800 or so. So because of the current situation, we're not supposed to be using parks. We're not supposed to be using play structures. What we are allowed to do is just walk through. So if there's a pathway going through the park, or if you're just taking a shortcut, you can walk across, but you can't sit, you can't, stay around in a park and make use of it right now. But when the situation is normal, so, outside of this current situation that we're in, what are some of the things that you're supposed to watch out for outside when you go outside the home or outside the security of your home or your school? Yes, there is restrictions on people gathering, more than 5 people. Yes, that's true. But also the parks have been shut down. There are notices that have been posted, and people have received fines for being in a park, um, other than just walking through it. So we should be careful. But my question is with regards to when we go outside of the home, as children especially, what are the things that we are instructed by our parents and by teachers to be careful of, to be aware of? What are some of the common instructions that we find? So you have to be careful of cars, yes. Crossing the street, that's very good. What other things do parents normally warn their children about? So, for example, what have your parents or your teachers warned you about when you started leaving home alone for the very first time? Strangers. Okay, that's very good. That's very good. Mashallah. Washing hands, yes, especially nowadays. Anybody else? The things that we are told to be aware of. A child leaving home for the first time, walking, let's say, to school alone. What are some of the things that their parents are likely to warn them about? So, one of the things can be talking to strangers, right? And this is actually a real image from a real experiment that a person did, where they actually, so, many children, I think most children know that, they're not supposed to talk to strangers. And this person did an experiment where they actually took a really, cute puppy or a cute dog with them to a playground and started talking to the children, asking them if they wanted to pet the puppy or to pet the animal, and just asking them if they wanted to play with it and striking up a conversation with the child with children. And guess what? When children got distracted, many of them actually ended up going along with the stranger when they said, would you like to come with me to play with my dog? Would you like to come over? And so on. Okay, so it's one thing to know that yes, we're supposed to be careful about such situations. We're not supposed to go with strangers. We're not supposed to talk to strangers. But at the same time, it's very easy, especially for children, to become distracted and to actually forget those things. So always, keep in mind that you should not be talking to strangers. You should not be going with a stranger, especially, out of a playground or out of a safe area and going with them to another location. So that's one of the things I think you would agree that parents often warn their children about. Another thing that children are often warned about is about taking candies or taking food from strangers. There have been instances and cases of kids, getting candy that was laced with, some sort of poison or, containing some harmful substance. Nowadays, it's even more scary and more challenging because, there are cookies and candies that include drugs that can be very, very dangerous for children. So, now you have to be even extra careful about making sure that you're not taking food, especially things that look nice or that you think would taste nice from strangers. And sometimes even from classmates as well, because there have been cases where, people had cookies that contained drugs, for example, at home, and the children mistakenly brought them to school, shared them with their friends, and, they all end up getting the harmful effects of taking those drugs. And you're absolutely right; they can also be haram as well. So if you don't know the ingredients, it's you need to be very careful about taking food from strangers. Sorry, from classmates. You really shouldn't be taking anything at all from strangers. So that's another thing that parents often warn their children about. There have been instances also of dangers in playgrounds where there are, sick, evil people who do things like put blades, on play structures or hide them in the sand in playgrounds, where children come in to play and they're having fun, and the next thing you know, they're cut by these blades, either that were in the sand or that were stuck onto to the play structures. So these are just a few examples of the many dangers that exist and things that specifically children are often warned about by their parents and by their teachers, about the things that they should be careful about if and when they do go outside. Now, when you go on the internet, there are other types of dangers. Okay, so what are the things that you should be careful about online, right? Um, it's yeah, I know it's shocking, but it's true, right? There have been instances of that. But coming to online, what are the things that you should be careful about? So, you're not going to have a stranger necessarily approaching you in a car, offering you a candy on the internet. You're not going to find play structures with blades on them or razors on them. You're not going to have a stranger who's going to come and talk to you physically and personally and try to call you over to their house. But there are similar dangers online as well. And the scary part, or the risk, is that when you're in the comfort of your home, right? When you're sitting in the comfort of your home, you're sitting in your bedroom, you're sitting in your living room, or wherever your computer is, or maybe you're on a tablet or a phone. It's very easy to feel comfortable because you're not feeling directly threatened. You don't have a stranger who's coming to you physically in your face. So we tend to feel more comfortable when we are online, when we are using a device, when we're playing a video game. But as many of us know, you might have experienced it. There are quite a few dangers that exist online. So, for example, if you look at the image on the left, there are quite a few, types of websites and other types of videos, material really, which is unacceptable, which is really bad to look at, to listen to watch, in terms of pictures, videos, music. There's all types of evils, all types of haram things on the internet. And you have to be aware of the fact that not everything on the internet is believable. Not everything on the internet is true. Not everything on the internet is halal. Not everything on the internet is safe for you. So you actually have to not pretend, but believe that when you're on the internet, or when you're using a device that is connected to the internet, you are actually exposing yourself to harm. You're actually in a place where people can harm you, where there's material that can actually harm you. So you have to be aware and be mentally prepared for that, and just know that it is not a safe space. It is just like being out on the street, in a neighborhood that is not familiar to you, or being downtown, in a scary place in the middle of the night. That's what the internet is like. Even though when you go online, you may not see those parts, but those risks and those dangers are lurking just around the corner. Okay, so there may be times where you come across material that is uncomfortable, that is shocking, that you've never seen before, that you've never heard of before, and it's very important that when we come across that type of material, that we don't continue looking at it, that we don't continue exploring it. If you come across something which is shocking, which surprises you, which you think may be wrong, or contains images or videos, or music or lyrics, that your parents are not going to like, is going could get you in trouble, just close it right there. Turn it off, close it, switch it right away, and get away from it as soon as possible. Because staying in that type of material, continuing to watch it and expose yourself, is putting you at risk, and you should not be exposed to that type of material. Okay, so that's one example. The second image that we find here in the middle is regarding, here's a girl who is, having a conversation on the internet, and there's someone who appears to be, giving her flowers or acting really nice and kind to her. But the reality is that she doesn't know who's on the other side. There is someone who's probably pretending to be, someone who they are not. or maybe they are interacting with the child with bad intentions. Okay, so you have to remember that when you're on the internet, you never truly know who's on the other side, especially if you're dealing with people that you don't know from before. So you may have a friend who goes to the same school as you, you've met them before. You may have a relative, someone in the neighborhood that you've gotten to know, or maybe you traveled somewhere with your family and you met someone at your cousin's house, and you became friends, whatever the case may be. So if there's someone who you've met before and then you connect online, that is different than just connecting with someone online for the first time. So, and what unfortunately these evil people, people who are setting up traps or working on shaitan's orders, or who just have really bad intentions themselves, they they will never tell you, of course, that they are lying, and they will pretend to be someone else. And they, at the end of the day, they have a plan of what they want from you. They want you to do something, and in some cases, it is goes as far as actually kidnapping children, building trust, okay, pretending like they are someone your age, someone who has the same interests as you, getting to know where you live, your address, getting to see your pictures. So trying to compile as much information they can about you until they build trust and you forget that you have actually never met this person and that you actually don't know who they really are. So they want you to forget that and build such a great friendship online that you forget the fact that you never met this person, and you start trusting them because they seem so nice and so kind and so friendly online, and then eventually getting you to meet up with them, or eventually getting you to come out somewhere where they can harm you, they can kidnap you, or whatever the case may be. So you have to always remember that when you are on the internet, you never know for sure who is on the other side, who is communicating with you. Are they really who they claim to be? If they are someone who you already know offline, who you know from the real world, who you've met in person before, then there's a good chance that, okay, it is probably the same person. Although, even in those cases, sometimes there can be people who are impersonating or pretending to be that person. But that I guess, not that likely. But if you get to know someone on the internet for the first time, maybe in a video game chat room, maybe in some other, you're using some app, and you come across someone, and you start communicating, then you have to be very, very careful, because the person you're communicating with may not really be who they claim to be, or who they are showing themselves to be. Okay, so be very careful about that. Here on the right side, you see someone who appears to be a child on an iPad, and their brain is just glowing. And essentially, another thing that we have to be careful about is actually getting addicted to screens. Addicted means you become so used to doing something that you are not able to let go. You are not able to get away from it. Or if you do get away from it, it really causes you to have bad behavior, and it really changes your personality, and it really, makes you someone who you normally aren't, in terms of your behavior, in terms of how you're thinking, in terms of your attitude. So it's really, it's really, really important not to get to that point where the screen becomes an addiction for you. And I'll show you later on why that is so serious. Okay, so here we have a few things to be careful about, inshallah. Okay, so first of all, be very, very careful about sending pictures or videos. Okay, so right now, mashallah, I see everyone, has their videos off. And now, of course, I think most of you know me in person. You may not know everyone else, so it's good that you're being safe and your video is off. But if you wanted to, because you're in a relatively safe environment, you could, if you had the permission of your parents, turn on your camera. Okay, but it's actually good that you haven't, because normally you should be very careful about the use of your camera, about sending pictures, about making videos. Sometimes friends get together online and they want to do something silly. Maybe they're on an app, or they're just recording themselves doing silly things. But always remember that whenever you take a picture or make a video and send it to someone, there is always the potential that it could be shared. people could share it. Even if there's an app that tells you that they're going to delete your picture or whatever you're sharing or posting, there still is the possibility that some will take a picture of it with another phone, or will take a screenshot, or will record it somehow, or perhaps there will be a hack and the pictures or the videos or the messages will get released. So you should always be very, very careful about sharing pictures and sharing videos. The best thing to do is actually never to show your picture, never to share your picture, or to share your own videos. So always be careful about that. The other thing is, like I said, be careful about screen time. Know that you should have some point where you realize that you need to get off the tablet, get off the device, get off the video game. There may be reasons to use it, whether you're studying or maybe, playing a bit or communicating with your friends or whatever it is. But at some point, you do need a break. Otherwise, it can be very, very harmful for your brain, for your development, and in many other ways as well. In terms of, one second now. Sorry. Yeah. So in terms of the types of other materials that exist on the internet, be very careful. Like I said, about the people that you're talking to, who you're talking to, what you're talking about. Even chat rooms, right? So if you go into video game chat rooms and you see people are having conversations about things that you don't understand, are using words that you don't understand, terms that you don't understand, are are saying language or using words that are unhealthy or that are bad, then you shouldn't be there. Okay, just take yourself out of that situation. Unfortunately, people are especially using video game chat rooms for many types of evil things. So just if it's about the game, okay, fine. You just talk about the game, but never give away your personal information. Try not to use your real name. Try not to tell people about where you live, who you are. And if you see them talking about things that you don't understand or that you know are bad, then don't stay there. But exit, leave from that conversation, so that you don't harm yourself, inshallah. Um, Here's a few tips. So zip it, keep your personal stuff private, keep your personal stuff private, and think about what you say and do online. Okay, so um, whatever is personal, what would be personal information, by the way? Can someone tell me what would be considered personal stuff? Any examples? What would be considered personal stuff? So, your address, very good. Details of your inner life, yes, absolutely. Address is very important, so never share your address. If you ever find yourself at a form, you're signing up for something, and it's asking you for your name, your date of birth, your address, your phone number, your email address, even, uh, don't fill it in. Don't give it away until you have it checked by a parent. Okay, a lot of times even parents and adults get scammed, and fall for scams and are defrauded. So it can be even more challenging for children, for younger children, to know whether it's safe or not. So never give away any personal information. So whether it's your name, your date of birth, your address, your phone number, your email address, for adults, your social security number or your social insurance number. If it asks you for a credit card number, don't go into your parents' wallet and just and try to enter it. Don't do any of those things. Okay, so keep your personal stuff private and think about what you say and do online. So always be aware, like I said, that when you're online, you're not in a safe environment. You're actually out there in the city alone at night. And you need to be very, very careful about who you talk to and what information you give, what you watch, what you listen to. Okay? So zip it. So just do, the work that you need to do. If it's a game, you talk about the game. If you're talking to your friends, talk to your friends about, normal things, but don't give away any personal information. Number two, block it. Okay, so block people who send nasty messages and don't open unknown links and attachments. And that's really, really important. Okay, so if there are people, and there's actually, recently there was a report a news report about how many nasty and really, either mean or really evil messages uh, people receive, children receive, if they go online and if they make themselves available, if they, for example, post a public profile on a social media site and share pictures, it can be really, really harmful, for boys and girls, but especially for girls. So if there are people who are sending you nasty messages, who are sending you inappropriate messages, who are trying to, mess around with you, who are trying to invite you to become friends with them, and you don't know who they are, be very careful. Ignore those messages, delete those messages, and don't open unknown links and attachments. Sometimes people, there's a lot of fraud, fake emails that go around. People saying that you've won $1 million. I don't know. Walmart is giving away $150 free gift cards. Tim Hortons is giving away this and this and that, and they want you to click on a link. So do not click on any links um, and attachments. Somebody says, "Oh, I'm sending you a video. Check out this video. Check this out. Check that out." Just try really not to click on any of those things, not to download any of those attachments unless you get it checked by an adult. A person hacking into someone's account, OCDSP, and send. Yes, I know. The entire school board essentially received those emails with racist swear words. So and that's supposed to be a safe place because it's your school account. It's through the Ottawa Carleton District School Board, but hackers and people with evil intentions can get into different things. So again, that highlights the importance of being safe, not believing everything that you read online, getting it checked by an adult if you're not sure. Okay, so once again, if there's people who are contacting you who you do not know, okay, people who are strangers, they're trying to act like they want to become friends with you, or they're sending bad words or bad messages with bad ideas to you. Ignore them, delete them, block them, and if there are unknown links to things that people want you to click on, or they're sending you files or pictures, videos, be careful. Don't download them. Don't click on them until you have it checked by a parent. And yes, part of that again is flagging it, right? So if you find something that upsets you, or someone asks you, especially to meet you offline, and especially for young children, somebody wants to become your friend, wants to add you and follow you on a social media app or site, have someone trustworthy that you can share with. It could be, a parent, it could be your teacher, it could be a responsible older sibling, a brother or sister that's older and that's mature and responsible, and who knows how to be careful. It's good to have someone that you trust that you can actually show these things to, because it can be very complicated, like I said, even for adults. So especially for young children, it can be quite of a challenge. This is the part that I was talking about with regards to screen time. Okay, so screen addiction is actually very serious, okay, because it starts impacting your brain. Right now, at the age that you're at, your brain is still growing, right? Your brain is still developing, and that is going to have an impact on how your brain is going to work, and how you are going to live your life when you grow up. So, for children who are exposed to a lot of screen time and especially video games, that can actually be very, very dangerous and could be just as dangerous as a drug. Okay, so even though you're not taking drugs, mashallah, alhamdulillah, you're protecting yourself from taking evil, haram things like drugs, being addicted to your screen, to a video game, or to a TV screen, to a tablet, to a phone, that can, and especially playing video games, that can have the same impact on your brain as drugs. Okay, and that is very, very serious because it changes how you feel. It changes what things make you feel good. It can change what makes you feel excited. How you feel happy. All of those things can get impacted by negatively impacted. So impacted in a bad way if you're addicted to screens and if you're addicted to video games. So some video games are fine to play in moderation, but that means that you're not overdoing it. You have, like we discussed last week, you have a schedule, you have a plan, you play for a certain amount of time, and then that's it. And then you're able to turn it off and put it away and do other things. You're able to go read a book. You're able to go play with your toys or blocks or whatever it is that you like to play. You're able to go out, take a break, ride your bike, or play basketball in your driveway. or play hockey or whatever, play soccer, whatever it is that you want to do. Don't do it in a park nowadays because you could get in trouble. But but go do other things. Don't just stay on your screen all the time, especially playing video games, because it can be just as bad for your brain as taking drugs, which is really really bad. And always remember when you're on the internet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. Actually, Allah is watching you everywhere. As Muslims, we don't need cameras, we don't need, monitoring software. We shouldn't need any of these things. We shouldn't have to have our parents watching over us and then we behave and otherwise, we end up doing haram or bad things. Because Allah is always watching us, right? And the angels are recording everything that we're doing, everything that we're watching, everything that we're listening to. So if we do end up doing something wrong, something bad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will know about it. Allah knows about it for sure. It will be in our book of deeds, and we will have to answer for it. And if it becomes a habit, especially when you're young, it can become very, very difficult to get rid of when you get older. So that's why always remember that Allah is watching. It doesn't matter if no one else is watching. Allah is always watching every single human being. But every Muslim should know this because the others sometimes don't realize this. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always watching us. Okay, so whether you're on the internet or you're outside or you're with your friends or wherever you are, always know that Allah is watching and you are going to have to answer for what you're doing. So before you do anything, before you watch anything, before you talk about anything, before you listen to anything, before you go anywhere, before you go on any website or any app, you remember that, okay, whatever I'm about to do, how am I going to justify it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How am I going to answer? What am I going to say to Allah when Allah asks me, why did you do this? Why did you say this? Why did you go to this website? Why were you on this app? Why were you watching that video? Why were you, looking at those pictures or talking about these things which were bad? Allah's going to ask us. And what answer are you going to give? So before you do it, ask yourself. And when you ask yourself, hopefully there'll be enough to actually make you realize that doing that is not a good idea and that you should stop. And that way you're safe, inshallah, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's questioning on the day of judgment. And you'll also stay safe in this world as well. So you actually get double benefits. Okay, so always remember that Allah is always watching. So ask yourself then, so what am I watching and what am I doing? Okay, so that's my question. You don't have to tell me. Think for yourself that whatever I'm doing on the internet, where does it fall in everything that we have discussed so far? So what are you watching? What are you doing on the internet? So this could be in the form of different apps, right? That people are into. These are just some examples. There are, of course, many more. There's many other apps, that are coming out that will continue to come out. So it doesn't matter which app you're on. It doesn't matter which device you're using. It doesn't matter, what you're actually, how you're actually doing it. But just ask yourself that whatever I'm doing, is it acceptable? Number one, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is it a trap of shaitan? Is it something that could harm me in this world, in this life, and in the hereafter? Ask yourself all of these questions. Is there any benefit coming out of it? Am I doing something, perhaps posting videos or sharing pictures that could get me in trouble? That could have many consequences for me, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could become unhappy with. So just question yourself, regardless of which platform, which tool, which app you're using, always have these questions in mind. Whether it's videos that you're posting, whether it's videos that you're watching, whether it's conversations that you're having, whether it's videos and pictures from other people that you're watching. It doesn't matter, right? The principle is the same, that you ask yourself, how good is this for me? How dangerous is this for me in this world? And secondly, or most importantly, how dangerous is it with regards to displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Would Allah be happy? Okay, so whatever you're doing on whichever apps or games or devices that you're going on, would Allah be happy with what you are spending your time doing on the internet? Always ask yourself this. This question is equally valid for children, for teens, and for adults. Okay, so would Allah be happy with what you are doing on the internet? And furthermore, would your parents be happy? Okay, so if your parents found out about everything that you are doing on the internet, okay, whether it's whichever app it is, whichever device it is, okay, would your parents be happy with whatever you are doing that includes talking about, that includes watching, that includes posting, that includes listening to, reading about? Would your parents be happy with what you are doing on the internet? Would your teachers approve? If your teachers found out, okay, or if I found out, or anyone else in the community found out about what you're doing, how do you think we would respond? Would we approve of what you're doing? You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran about Iblis and what he said. Okay, what Iblis said. So Iblis is basically the head shaitan, right? And basically what he said when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kicked him out of the company of the angels, and Iblis was upset at Allah, even though that's a pretty silly thing to do, because there's no point of getting upset with Allah, because Allah is the master, Allah is the king, Allah is our Lord, Allah is in control. So anyone who gets upset at Allah really isn't doing themselves any favor, doing themselves any favor. They're just really hurting themselves. But Iblis promised to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ثُمَّ لَآتِيَنَّهُم مِّن بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ, I will approach them. And he's talking about us. He's talking about the human beings. I will approach them from بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ مِن بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ, from their front, وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ, their back, وَعَنْ أَيْمَانِهِمْ, and from their right, وَعَنْ شَمَائِلِهِمْ, and their left. And he promised to Allah, وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرَهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ, and then you will find most of them to be ungrateful. So Shaitan has already promised that he's going to try different approaches, different tools to try to attack us, to try to lead us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to get us to do things which are evil, to show us evil, to get us to listen to things which are harmful and evil, to get us to do everything that he possibly can to lead us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to make us ungrateful for Allah's blessings, and eventually to lead us to deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So remember, the key point here is that Shaitan is not just going to come to you and be like, hi, I'm Iblis and I want to distract you from Allah, so don't believe in Allah. He's not going to say that. He's going to use different tricks to get you from the front, from the back, from the right, from the left, from every corner, to try to attack you and trick you and trap you. What Shaitan wants to do is he wants to trap you so that you become his, you become an evil follower of his, and you turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So be very, very careful that when you go on the internet, especially nowadays, there's going to be a lot of traps set up by Shaitan to try to catch you, just like that mouse trap that we saw in the beginning. Okay? So be aware, be careful, be warned. And if after having this conversation, if after watching this presentation, you're thinking about all of the things, then it's good, right? It's called muhasabah, like you reflect and you think about, okay, what am I actually doing? Because every single one of us shouldn't be thinking about others, we should be thinking about ourselves, meaning how do we improve ourselves? When we learn something new, when we're reminded about something, what we should do is, instead of thinking, oh yes, this really applies to this friend and that friend of mine, instead of thinking that way, we should be thinking, how does this apply to me? Where do I stand? How much is this, does this impact me in terms of what I've been doing? And if you do that right now and you realize, oops, I've made some mistakes. I've looked at stuff or talked about things or watched stuff or listened to stuff that I shouldn't have. I've posted videos, I don't know, on TikTok or other apps, maybe that I really shouldn't have. I've done things which, make me ashamed in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which would make me feel ashamed in front of my parents and my teachers or the imam or whoever else. So if you feel embarrassed, which is a good feeling to have when you've done something wrong, so if you feel embarrassed and if you feel guilty, then that's okay, because inshallah, if we seek forgiveness from Allah, Allah will forgive us. But most importantly, we should learn from our mistakes. We should learn from our mistakes. So everyone makes mistakes. Maybe you've made some mistakes as well, but we need to learn from our mistakes. And that way we can turn our mistake into something good, because it will help us not repeat that mistake again. Okay? The Prophet ﷺ has told us that لا يلدغ المؤمن, that the believer is not stung من جحر, from a hole, or من جحر واحد, from the same hole, twice, مرتين. لا يلدغ المؤمن من جحر واحد مرتين, meaning the believer, right, a Muslim, is not stung from the same hole twice, meaning that if you know that there is a hole, and especially in the past, there would be snakes, that would be, or still like in warmer countries, there are snakes who live in holes. And if a person knows that, on their path, that there is a hole in which there's a snake or a dangerous animal or insect that could bite them, or sting them, then maybe it will happen once because they didn't, the first time, because they didn't realize that there was a hole there, that trap was there, as an example. But the second time around, they should be careful. They should learn from that mistake. If the first time around they got stung or they got bitten, then the second time around it shouldn't happen again, because now they should be aware and they should know that, okay, there is danger here, and I'm going to be careful. So in the same way, if you've made mistakes, and we've all made mistakes, if you've made mistakes and you realize, okay, I fell into a trap of shaitan in the past, especially on the internet, because that's what we were talking about, then you think about it and you learn from that mistake and you say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm not going to get trapped by that again. I'm going to be careful this time, because the believer is not stung from the same hole twice. Okay? So always remember that Allah is always watching. Doesn't matter which app, which device, which platform, or what you're doing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always watching. Lockdown, no lockdown, lights off, lights on, daytime, nighttime, time of year, doesn't matter. Time of day, it doesn't matter whether you're alone in your room or with your friends. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always watching, and always, always remember that. And if we can remember that and internalize that so that we are always thinking of that, then it will really help us protect ourselves from behavior which can get us in trouble with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter, in the akhirah, on the day of judgment, and behavior that can also cause us problems in this life, in this world as well. So therefore, my friends, think twice before watching. Okay, before you watch something, think twice. Be careful about sending videos and pictures. Okay, be very, very careful. Try not to make any videos, not to send any pictures. Beware of strangers, okay, in person, but also on the internet, people you haven't met before. If you're getting to chat with someone and you haven't met them before in person, be very, very careful. Take a break from time to time. Don't be online all the time. Don't be on your video games. Don't be on your devices all the time. Your brain needs a break. Otherwise, it's going to be, it can be very, very dangerous and harmful for your brain and for your body. And of course, remember Allah much. A person who is constantly in the remembrance of Allah, who is offering their salah on time, who's reciting Quran every day, who is making dua every day, a person who is regularly doing the dhikr of Allah, saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, astaghfirullah, 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 Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. You know, a person who is constantly engaged in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will become easier for them to stay away from these harmful things. Because when they are invited into a trap of shaitan by an evil person or by shaitan himself, then this dhikr of Allah will remind them of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will remind them that Allah is watching. It will remind them about the things that they have heard today, inshallah, and that way they will be able to stop themselves before doing something which can cause them harm. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments, children? Okay, so if everyone is okay, then inshallah, I'd like to thank you for joining us this evening. And again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. Inshallah, I will try to make a recording of this available for those who may have missed it. I would like you to stay safe, inshallah. Take care of yourselves. Remember that after this hardship, there will be ease, inshallah. So have good hopes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Take care of your family. Be kind and loving and forgiving towards everyone. Try to be understanding and patient. Everyone is having a challenging time. And stay safe. Continue to study at home. Be sure to go outside and get some fresh air, but don't play in the parks. You're allowed to go for walks if you keep distance between yourself and others, meaning people who are not members of your family. Go with your parents, of course. If you have a front yard or a backyard, you can go outside and get some fresh air. If you can't go outside because it's raining, still find something to do at home, outside, like apart from your computer or your device, inshallah. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully next week, inshallah. Jazakallahu khaira. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.